Okay guys, we're going to start doing the tile in our kitchen here. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you the procedure that we're going to be using to do this tile. Now what we've done here, first of all, we have measured up 6 inches because the tile we're going to be using is 6 inches, and we marked 6 inches on this corner of the cabinet, 6 inches on this corner of the cabinet over here, and we popped a chalk line across the wall. And what we're going to be doing is that chalk line is going to be the distance of our tile here when we sit down on top of our countertops here. That kind of gives us an idea about where we want our tile to go. It gives us a good straight line in case there's some irregularities in our cabinet. Now the next thing that will happen, one reason we have that line is on top of this, we will be going with this brick look pattern like this up only this high. We're not going any higher with it. We're going to be using some more of these tiles right here on top of this up here, and it should all fit in here really nice. It's all been figured and planned that way anyhow. So this is what the look is going to be on the backsplash here, and we'll take you along on this journey to show you step by step how we make this happen. All right guys, we're ready to start the tile job today. It's wet, cold, wind's blowing outside. It would be one of them days, you know. But nevertheless, we gotta get Ms. Wanda's kitchen done. Kind of got the cabin to a point where we're gonna have to just wait until we come up with some money to work on it. It'll kind of be on hold for a little while, but we're gonna get inside and work today because it's wet and rainy outside, like I said. But guys, when you do a tile job, you know, I showed you earlier about popping the chalk line on the wall to get a good level line to work with. And when you're working around things like where the hood vent and all this is here, having straight square lines is key. You can't just guess at this stuff. And one of the things I like to do is, no matter how accurate a house is built, and I built this house years ago and everything was in perfect alignment then, but you see, this goes down and now it's off a little bit here because of the house has settled, these things that's happened. But this tile is going to be running with this cabinet, so we're going to work with this here by putting a line here. Now this line may or may not be square. It's hard to tell. But since the house has settled, and it is off just a touch, so that's why we want to make sure. I mean, it's not even a 1/16 of an inch, but nevertheless, I like to make sure that things are good and square, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. You want to do all this so that you got lines to work from when you start laying tile, because you want your job to be square, you want it to look nice, and you want it to fit. It looks like this side is still square with my line, so the house is not settled out of line too bad on those two lines. And we got one more to go, and that one's going to be on this other side over here. Now what we're going to do over here is I'm going to run the square down to this, but I'm going to run it with my cabinet here because the tile is going to work with the edge of this cabinet. So this is going to be my starting point here, all the way down. Now I may have to do a little more repainting after I get the tile up, because you see the backsplash ran over a little bit here, so we'll have to kind of fix this after we get the tile on. But there's a pencil line here. This lets me know where to start my tile. Now I could, theoretically, I could run it over and just start it against this, but because I've got an exposure here, I'd kind of like to keep that same look all the way down. So that's why we're going to do it this way. But that's why I wanted to show you, it's always best to get your lines started on your tile before you actually do the job, so that you know where you're starting and you know where to measure to when you have to cut a piece. We're going to be using an acrylic pro ceramic tile adhesive for wall and floor tile. This particular type adhesive is not made for wet locations like showers and tubs and stuff like that. It's not made for outdoor use. It's okay for backsplashes and stuff like that. We're going to be putting it on with a hand trowel. I always like to, and I know it says to use a flat trowel. All this stuff says to use a flat trowel first on one side and then use this. I don't do that. I start out with my little groove here on my narrow side, and then I'll finish up with this wider trowel. Now I like the 1/4 inch because I like a good bond on the back of my tiles. I like to make sure I got enough thin set to make my tiles stick good. So we're going to be installing some of these tiles and getting them ready for first. Another one of the reasons we pop these chalk lines is so that we can know where to put our adhesive and not make a mess of everything. Because if you get too much adhesive above it or below it, you got to clean it up, or you got to hurry up and get a tile in there. So we want to try to stay within our lines. Now this is a white pre-mixed mortar that we're going to be using here. It wipes off real easy. It has a pretty long dry time to it. It's about 72 hours, 24 to 72 hours to get a complete dry on it. And what I'm trying to show you is here, I like to just run mine out like this, just so we get some good coverage to start with. I always try to get what's on the lid off first because I hate having messes. Now this stuff, I like to get it on. I like to kind of, I don't do lots of it at a time. A lot of people put it on real heavy to start with. I don't. I like to take small areas and work with them to start with. I like to try to make sure I stay within my lines because I'm going to have to be doing some cutting outside on some of these tiles. Another reason I don't like to go do large areas, because if you have to stop and clean up something, you know, you don't want a big mess on your hands. You have to realize working in these little tight areas is kind of tough sometimes. I'll turn around and looks like I could use a little bit more on that bottom side down there. So I'm going to put a little bit more here. A little bit thicker. I'm trying to figure out the exact amount that I need. Once I do, it won't be that big of a deal. I'll be able to move forward with it. Yeah, that looks a lot better. I just want to make sure I get a good flow. Alright guys, another thing, I've got 100% clear silicone here. I always like to take between my tile and my ceramic countertops here, I love to put a heavy bead of silicone down. This prevents any water or anything. If you're ever cleaning up a countertop, any of your cleaners, from getting in behind this tile. It's like a waterproof sealant. I know a lot of people just use the thin set, but I would rather stick with the silicone myself. Now that we have that, my first thing is, I'm going to start this first one off. First thing I'm going to do is set it down in the silicone. and I'm going to work it back and forth real lightly, keeping with this line over here, with this line here. Making sure that I get a good bead of it stuck there, and I'll even take my finger and go back and make sure that that silicone is all the way across that front there. And we're going to take her. Now, I don't use the spacers. I've laid so much tile that I have yet to use them things. They seem to get in my way more than anything else. But for somebody who's not used to laying tile, it's not a bad thing. And I want to keep, you want to make sure you keep the same level, so I keep working it till I mash that out behind it real good. And you can move them a little bit if you need to rock them just a little to make sure that you get a good fit. I'm looking for a 1/16 of an inch grout gap because I don't like the big wide grout gaps on a tile. Now this one here is a little bit more than what I wanted, so we're going to go back with 1/16 of an inch on this. Okay guys, we're using what's called an industrial tile and brick saw. This one shoots water on the blade to keep everything cool and kind of washed off here. So this is what we're going to be using to cut our tiles with on here now, and hopefully it's going to be all right. I'm going to put your safety glasses on because I don't ever like to cut around brick or masonry or metal or anything without safety glasses on. Now this may be a little noisy, so you'll just have to kind of bear with it. Now the table actually slides on this. This is how things actually move. Alright, we're fixing to move ahead. I'm going to show you guys some of our pattern work here. Now we went outside with the wet tile saw you just seen. We cut this edge off right here. This is so that we can set these up here. Now this is going to lay like this right here. That's how we're going to apply it. Because we're going to put this run of brick through the center of our tiles. Now there's a reason why we're doing this here, and I'm going to take you over here and show you why. Okay, when we figured our tiles to go on this wall, the designs and all that kind of stuff, to keep us from having tons of work to do, we picked a design that worked with us because of where our plug-ins are at. We knew that the 6-inch tile would fit right underneath our plug-in to the countertop, and this is a 4-inch piece. Now this 4-inch piece is going to come in here just like this and go across, and what this will do is this will permit us to not have to do any cutting around our plug here, and then our next 6-inch tile will fit up at the top and we'll be okay. Now we may have to trim the top one just a little bit because of our grout lines, but that's okay. But this is one of the reasons we chose this design, was just simply because we're trying to eliminate as much cutting as possible while we're doing our tile work here at the house. Make sure you got a smooth fit right here. Everything lays off right.